Okay, so we are starting our new project, and I think you all will really like it. It's based in object portraiture. I don't know if it's a term or not. I hope it is. I think it's kind of cool. And the project's based around you guys and creating art that defines our identity. So we're going to be doing a photography project. I know you guys have worked in portraiture before, so we're going to be doing it without having ourselves in it. So we'll be using 5 objects minimum, upwards of 7 to 8, depending on how many you feel like you need to define yourself, and that's going to be our project. So, yes, Mosami.
Portraits that we take pictures of our faces, right?
Yes, that's a portrait. So before we get into making the art, we're going to just go through this PowerPoint, learn a little bit about art history, because I really love art history. I think it helps us create meaningful art, and it kind of informs the practices and what we do in the art classroom. So do any of you have any art history background? Have you learned about any famous artists, painters, sculptors? Yes.
Van Gogh.
Van Gogh. Anyone else? Da Vinci and Michelangelo. Picasso. Okay, so the 2 that Zuri mentioned were Italian Renaissance painters. And we're kind of in that time frame with the first artist we talk about, Clara Peters. She was a Dutch Baroque artist. And the Baroque happened after the Renaissance. And you mentioned 2 Italian Renaissance painters. She's in the northern part of Europe. Does anyone know any of the countries in northern Europe?
Norway, Sweden, Switzerland,
Denmark, Belgium, great. So those are all countries in the northern Baroque. And they have a different style than the Italian Baroque, but we're just going to concern ourselves with the Dutch Baroque. So a big part of the Dutch Baroque were creating still life paintings. And these still life paintings were filled with objects that had meaning. And that's the idea of symbolism. So in English class, I know a lot of you have probably either read Hamlet or some other form of Shakespeare, and his books are, and his plays, they're filled with symbolism. Do you guys remember any of the symbols from those plays?
What do you mean by symbol?
So what sort of objects was Shakespeare placing with the characters to create an extra meaning in a statement?
So like Romeo and Juliet, when you had to come up with their room?
That could be a form of symbolism, but Rakaya has
Would a dagger be one?
A dagger could be a sign of death if a character is carrying it around and they're not using anything with it. So that's kind of the idea in symbolism. In these Dutch still lifes, they use items you can't really see because the lights are on, but there's a cat here, and the cat symbolizes something. Cats in this time period represented mischief, and oftentimes they were put in portraits with women for the same reason, because women were mischievous. It was a very weird time. The fish means something. The oysters, which are down here, mean something. And if they were in a closed shell, it means something different than them being in an open shell. And the shrimp down here even means something. So that's the whole point of Dutch Baroque. Everything has a meaning. It is kind of fishy, the picture. So funny. So this is Clara Peters. She was a female painter, and as a female, she could only do these still lifes or portraits of other women. So if I were a female during this time period, I could paint a portrait of Anastasia, but not of Pasha, because that would be considered inappropriate and weird. Why would I do a portrait of someone who wasn't a female? So she was trained privately because she could not go to any schools. Her parents were from a wealthy status and could afford for her to have a teacher. And at a certain point, she surpassed her teacher and became this great master painter that we get to study. So you might be wondering why we're talking about an artist that's over 400 years old. And that's because we're using objects in the same way Dutch still life artists did to create meaning in pictures. And so the way I'm going to connect this to us in more contemporary art is by next looking at hyperrealism. So do we think this is a photo or a picture? Or a painting?
It's a drawing.
Who says it's a drawing?
It's a sketch.
No. Who says it's a painting?
It's a graphite drawing.
Who says it's a photograph? So it's painting.
Oh.
This is Chuck Close. He's one of the most prominent hyperrealism painters. He's still alive and working today. He's a really interesting artist. I would recommend looking at his current work. But hyperrealism started in the 1960s. And then Warsami, I think you mentioned Van Gogh when I asked about the artist, right? And so Van Gogh and other artists prior to and a little bit after were creating these artworks with really passionate and loud and expressive brushstrokes. And these hyper-realist artists did not necessarily connect with that sort of art making. So they, in turn, went back to this idea of let's create things as close to life as possible. And the Dutch still life artists that we looked at in the last slide were also trying to make art as much to their natural likeness as possible. that's kind of the bridge between the two. So hyperrealism, which is getting closer to looking like photography, relates to photorealism. I have the same question: painting, drawing, or photo? Who thinks painting? Who thinks photo? Who thinks drawing? Who doesn't know? There's way too many answers. Alright, that's fair. So this is a painting. Again, this is Audrey Flack. She is a prominent female photorealism painter. Hyperrealism and photorealism happen at the same time. Photorealism kind of carried over to the 1980s and is still happening. And the difference between the two is photorealism is done from a high quality digital image. So these are painted as photographs. So she set this up, or someone else set this up, took a picture and she painted it. Whereas Chuck Close maybe did his self-portrait in a mirror, or he probably in front of a mirror because it wasn't done from a photo is kind of the idea. So this is closely related to ours because we're going to be setting up objects in these ways in interesting compositions on a background and taking pictures of them. We're not painting, we're not a painting class, we're a photo class. So it's kind of how we're going to connect Dutch Baroque to hyperrealism, to photorealism, and then to contemporary photography. So, another artist, last artist that we're going to talk about today is Vic Muniz. Has anyone heard of him? It's okay. He's a contemporary Brazilian artist. He's really great. He works with non-traditional art materials like chocolate sauce, tomato sauce, garbage, and other household items to create reproductions of famous Renaissance paintings and contemporary portraits. Does anyone have any idea what this white granular substance is? Is it
Salt.
not salt?
Sugar.
Close.
Sugar.
Yes, it is sugar. So he has a whole sugar series. He has a whole chocolate sauce series. All these great things. My favorite project he did was his work in Brazil at the largest garbage refinery in the world. He went there in 2008 and he worked with these garbage pickers to sort out the trash and recreate these huge Renaissance paintings, take pictures of them, auction them off at the Tate in London or at like Phillips auction house, I can't quite remember, and then all the funding from those photos went back to the people at El Jardín. I think that's the name. It's El Jardín something. So we're going to watch the trailer for this just so you guys can learn a little bit more about contemporary art because that's kind of what's happening in the world today, and sometimes it's hard to talk about artists from so long ago. Yes?
Some people who do art with paintings, like the painting.
Yeah.
Is that contemporary?
It would be a contemporary art. If they're taking videos of it, it's more like a video art, like cinematography, but if they're taking photos of it, then yeah, it would be contemporary photography. Yes?
So we're going to watch the trash thing?
What about it?
We're going to watch that?
Yeah, we're going to watch the trailer right now. It's a really great movie. Last time I checked, it was still on Netflix. And then if it's not on Netflix, they have it on YouTube in Portuguese, Spanish, and English. It was filmed in Portuguese, some parts of it, so there are subtitles, you have to pay attention, okay? Okay, so that's just the trailer. It's a really great film. I first saw it when I was a sophomore in high school, and I think I've watched it 3 or 4 times. Probably.
How much is that going for?
I don't quite remember. I think they went for about 200,000 when they were first sold, or 300,000, something in that range. And all that money for each of the prints went back to the workers in the community. One of the projects they did was open a school for the kids at the refinery. So there's some really great things. That project and the photos are still making an impact at El Macho, I think is what you said. So you're probably asking, Carrie, why are we learning about all this art history? We've not talked about our project yet, but that's what the next slide is, about our project. And the theme we're working with in the question is, how can items identify us? Can items identify us? So I've put up what we're going to need for the project and the time frame. So you're going to need 5 items. And I might bring in something like my sorority pin, because that's where I met my best friends in college, a picture of my sister and I, because she's my best friend, I miss her, and she's all the way in Connecticut, stuff like that. And then you're also going to need the digital camera, because that's where what we'll be taking the pictures with, and the black backdrop. So the Dutch still life we looked at was on a black background, and a lot of the Dutch still lifes were on these darker backgrounds to help elevate the passion, drama, and light of those images. So we're going to be emulating that characteristic by using the black backdrop and these larger spotlights. The desk is just where we're going to be setting up our objects on, and we have a couple of worksheets we're going to be working with as well. And if you bear with me to the end of the PowerPoint, I will explain these worksheets that Anastasia is going to pass out for all of us in a minute as well. And then our time frame. Today's class 1, introduction. Class 2 is brainstorming. If you did not get to finish that today because you're finishing up your water project or whatever. Class 3 and 4, we're going to photograph. Class 5 is just going to be our Photoshop day to enhance the lighting that we're going to be doing. And then class 6 is your blog post. So, finally, the worksheets that are going to be getting handed out. We are doing a self-guided research project. I have given you these 2 worksheets. They're one's front and back, one's just front. It's about 15, 20 questions. They're not hard. I'm just asking you to do some investigating into the artists we talked about a little today. So you're going to learn a little bit more about Clara Peters, a little more about Dutch still life and Dutch Baroque art, a little more about hyperrealism, photorealism, and contemporary photography. I have on this Prezi put the links you can use to Google this because I didn't want you guys to have to go on a wild goose chase for the information. So I just made it nice and concise for you all, and it is on Blackboard. So I will go to the Blackboard page in a second just so you all know where you can find this Prezi. And it is also sectioned into each group you'll need to research. So at the top of this is who is Clara Peters. You'll use the Clara Peters links. When you go to the photo and hyperrealism section, you go to these links. And then when I ask you about Vic Muniz and contemporary art photography, you go to those links. So it's all laid out, really simple for you guys. And that is to work on throughout the whole project. So if you don't get it done today or tomorrow or the next class period, don't fret. We have the whole class to get this done. The last sheet you have, similar to last project, is your object brainstorming worksheet. And this is going to be your hall pass and kind of my note to make sure you guys are ready to photograph. You're going to write, for me, the 5 objects you want to use. This is where I put in like sorority pin, picture of sister, printmaking book, and why it has meaning to me. So you're all going to do that and sketch out how you want to lay out your objects. And then when you are done with that, hand it in to me. I will check it off. And I will say, yes, bring in your objects on this day, or no, maybe we need to think about why you want these objects a little bit more. So that's just to make sure you guys have thought about the art and connects back to that making art with meaning. That's my long spiel. On Blackboard, if you guys have any questions about how you're going to be graded, I have loaded the rubrics. One of your peers said that they wish they'd been up at the start of the project, so I've done that for this project. So if you have any questions about like, oh, why did I only get a 5 in this section, but then like a 10 in the next, here you go. And it says it's out of 200 points because the self-guided worksheet is one formative assessment, and then your blog post and your final photo is another formative assessment. So that's why it says out of 200. There are 2 chances for you guys to get those full points. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll go around and answer them. Anastasia's going to hand out those worksheets. If you need to finish the underwater stuff, you're more than welcome to. Done. Thanks, guys. Don't do well. I don't know. Yes, how are you? Do I? Yes, what? Yes, let me see how we get you signed up for it. Okay, yeah. Oh.
All right. Can I use the restroom?
Yeah, you go to the restroom all the time.
I'll make one.
No, don't leave them. I know you haven't finished the water. What a long day. What a long Everyone has a worksheet. No. Oh, I still have 3 minutes. Oh, no. So are you just going to start the work? Okay.
Yeah.
Have you right? Oh, did you? Okay, and you submitted the URL for Blackboard? For the blog post, yeah. So on Blackboard, on the assignment, there's the submit assignment key. Just put your URL there. That's how we're going to grade them and know where to go on your blogs. Yeah. Sign up for WordPress.com. Yeah. Oh, you did? Yeah, it's right. You showed me. To the blog post? Okay. Yeah, what's up?
I couldn't.
Do you have your blog post? I'm done yet. You're right. Okay. Yes, WordPress doesn't recognize it as a properly spelled word, but it is one word. Don't worry about it. Would you guys prefer if I have the rubrics up or the PowerPoint up? Rubric. PowerPoint. Okay, raise your hand for rubric. Raise your hand for PowerPoint. Alright, it's going to stay up for the rubric because that's what the class majority shows. But the link to the PowerPoint is on Blackboard, so don't worry about that. You'll be able to see it.